I'll do a quick intro. This is Marcus, aka the Fingaz, music composer for Sync and Trailers, music producer. And today, this is an episode of the Syncrets To Success podcast, which is sponsored by ASTS, which makes some great libraries for us to use as music creators. And check the links in the description on YouTube for all kinds of other resources that you can use for music production. And you can join the Facebook group that is now at 3,000 members called Secrets to Success also. So we are growing in number. Today, I'm blessed to be speaking with Robert Arzola, Robbie Robert, who is a trailer music composer and the music supervisor for Phantom Power Music, an incredible trailer music library that has, I should have written down some of the library, the trailer placements. I know you have Lord of
Ah,
the
you're
Rings, you
fine.
have Front Room, Garfield movie, The Marvels, Abigail, Monkey Man, Beetlejuice, The Crow, the list goes on. Black
It
Twitter,
keeps
Exorcism.
going and
Uh,
going and going.
and what's crazy is I was looking at it earlier, and I think most of those or all of those were like the last year or less. And I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, we get
Um,
a good chunk of music placements and a good chunk of sound design placements.
yeah, yeah,
We really try to push different things on the trailer side.
yeah. This is a personal. I see Jay. Thank you for tuning in. Keith, thank you for joining in. If you want to come off camera and join the fun, that's all good. And I'm forever grateful because you gave me a chance to. And I've been learning a lot from you to be as a composer with Phantom Power. So I've been enjoying the journey and really just been learning. Like all of my templates for trailer music are because of the project. So
Oh yeah.
thank you for that. I don't know, where do you want to start, Robbie? Do you like Robbie Robert? R.A.
Uh, I'm not my friends call me Robbie,
Mhm.
but a lot of times lately I notice if I go by Robert on the trailer side, people take me more seriously.
Okay. Um, well,
Imagine getting a stern email from me. Would you take it more seriously if it said Robert or Robbie?
yeah, I've noticed that when you got like mixed revision notes, it's like Robert, but then it's like, hey, this is fine. Send the stems. It's Robbie. And also shout out to Jay. Jay, are you still with Disco? Jay is an executive over at Disco. So
Oh,
I
you're
am,
yeah.
man. I am
So
still there with Disco, yeah.
yeah. So Robbie, if you have any Disco questions, feel free to toss them over to Jay. I did a chat with him. And it's been over a year now, and
It's
Disco's
been a
changed so much
minute.
since then. Yeah. Uh, let's start here, Robbie. Let's go to I guess what got you into like trailer music composition? Maybe if you want to, however far back you want to go and share that journey.
however far back. Oh my God, I don't know, man. What was it? The trailer. I was going to school in Dublin, Ireland, a long time ago for a master's in film scoring at a place called Pulse College, and around that, about a bit before I went, there was a trailer that came out for Star Wars Episode 7. I think that's Force Awakens. And when that came out, the first trailer came out, it just sounded glorious, amazing. And I thought, that's what I want to do. Like, I like the film side and the game side, but at that moment, I was thinking, I want to get into that somehow, some
Mhm.
way.
Yeah. And how did you get into it? Because for me, it's been a couple of year journey just studying trailers specifically and diving in, and along with, working full time, family. And how did you like get into it from watching that trailer to sort of finding your path into the
Do you
space?
want me to tell you the short story or a bit of the long one, whatever works for
Yeah,
you?
I want the long story. Pause. The long one.
Okay, okay, because I guess this can go into another possible thing of like whether how it is, I guess, going to LA as someone trying to figure their shit out. Oh wait, am I allowed to curse?
Yeah, man. You gotta speak how you normally speak.
Oh, all right. So after Pulse College, the the school had a residency with the composer for The Grudge, Ghost Rider, Christopher Young.
Okay.
And I was able to go to that, be a part of that residency. And luckily for me, I was the last one. The
Oh, wow.
residency ended after me, which cut off other composers from my class and everyone else who probably wanted to go. So I was the lucky last one. And once I got over there, I just it was being in LA and trying to figure it out. That thing's a struggle, man. Let me tell you.
Yeah,
And after
yeah.
like a couple of years, I just thought I got to figure it out. But the money was running dry.
Mm.
The money was running dry. And, I was down to the point where I had a negative account balance. And it's just
Mm,
like, all right, this might be it. It's time to go, maybe.
yeah.
The dream is done for now. Figure it out. Go back to the East Coast, figure it out. Maybe come back in a few years. I don't know. And then I think it was on Indeed, from
Wow.
Phantom Power. They were looking for an admin assistant.
Wow.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna send an email over, send a resume over. It's the last chance. And then I got a response 5 minutes later. Of
Wow.
course, I will interview a fellow Bobcat. We went to the same college,
That's awesome.
and there's not many of us that go to Ohio University, not Ohio State, Ohio
Oh,
U.
okay. Now that's different. I do know some people from Ohio
Yeah, we
State.
ain't the
Okay.
Buckeyes. We're the Bobcats.
Wow.
And
Interesting.
so that's a rarity.
Hmm.
Not in my
So,
world, man. I'm from Cincinnati, so I know a
oh, there
lot
you
See?
go.
from
Oh,
Ohio
there you go.
University.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There you go.
Did you go to UC?
I went to Miami, so you're
Oh,
rival
okay.
pretty much.
Oh,
Miami University, right like a couple hours from you. Yeah.
yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I got lucky and I became an admin. And then while I was working there, I was learning my more of doing trailer music and all that because I had a lot to learn over the years. I wasn't very good. But yet as time went on, I got better and I was doing stuff for some of the albums. And then eventually I became an in-house guy
Yeah.
while still doing admin, so composing and admin. And I gotta say, if you can get one of these admin jobs at one of these types of libraries, especially as a composer or something, get it. Because
Yeah.
like not only are you
Hmm.
making money, you're getting a paycheck, you're learning some skills from the inside that you're not going to learn anywhere else.
Hmm.
Working with Phantom Power, I learned a lot of using Photoshop, using other things, and being taking care of the source audio sites and all that, learning my way through source audio, disco, things like that. Like I've learned so many different skills along with composition and sound design, and
Yeah.
eventually it led to me being the supervisor now. And
Wow.
so like I handle all these different things. It's been a long, long journey.
Yeah. How long have you been with Phantom Power specifically?
5 or 6 years, I think.
Oh, wow. And then so it was crazy because um I almost how long has Phantom Power been in existence?
Think more than 10 years.
So I had no idea. And when I don't know how we connected. It might have been from a Facebook group or some
So
group online.
I think it's from the sample list for us.
The samplist, yes. And I think you were working on a neoclassical project, and I had sent you. I think I almost lost the opportunity. I was like, man, I think I blew it with this company. Because one, you were like, hey, do you have any neoclassical? I sent you like a list of, I think like five. But the thing is, they weren't available exclusively. They were not exclusive. You're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
are these available? And I was like, no. Do you want them exclusive? He's like, yeah. And I was like, no, but I can try to make some more. And then like couple weeks passed and I made some more. And luckily, I think two or three of them landed on that project. So I definitely
Yeah.
appreciate the opportunity because you could have just been like, no, man, we want them exclusive. And then to help me get to that point where working with you has helped me to improve the creative process and learn from professionals in the trailer space. So that's what's great about working with people like you and companies like Phantom Power. Uh, for you, and if anyone I see, Gregory Covington from Oh I Like That Music is here. As I mentioned, Jay Ward from Disco, Keith Anderson, another great composer, is here. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'll jump to your questions. But for you, Robbie, now, are you focused more on the sort of admin? Music supervisor side, or do you also still do the creative creating, or whether it's collaborating with people that you do bring on board? How does that work with your current role?
Actually, give me 1 second. Let me try something.
Uh-oh. Okay.
All right. Is that better now?
Yeah, yeah. The audio
Okay.
turned up a little bit.
Yeah,
Got
okay,
clear.
good, good, good. I noticed that my audio interface wasn't using the microphone on this thing. So that's better. That's clearer now. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Anywho, um, Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
So is there a balance between do you still do as much sort of composing, or is it more focused on the admin music supervision side for Phantom Power?
Right now I focus more on the supervision.
Okay.
A lot of what I do now is on the supervision, admin side. If I have to do stuff on the music side, if there's like a custom request or something I have to work on, then yeah, I'll get on that because I work really quickly if I have to. Right
Yeah.
now I focus a lot on the music soup side because I have other things outside of Phantom Power that
Mm.
kind of like take the energy in terms of composition.
Okay.
Though, I did write some tracks recently that I might try to get into the libraries. We'll see. One of them will be on the alpha organ video for the samplist whenever that comes out. We're
Ooh,
gonna see.
nice.
But there's like I don't know, I think in a way I'm enjoying the supervision more than the composition on the trailer side.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because there's something about getting other composers over the hump
Yes.
that's that can be satisfying, but also it teaches in a way more sometimes to write. Because like whenever I help a composer figure something out or help you figure something out or something, like if a note works, if the notes work out, or you give me something that I never thought of, I'd be like, okay, that's cool. I didn't think about that. Or this works out very well with that track or something. I'm thinking like, okay, that's a good thing to think about for my own writing or something, or
Hmm.
things like that. I learn a lot from working with others and giving thoughts and whatnot. And sometimes when a composer does something that I'm like, whoa, how did they do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I'll ask, and if they tell me, I'm like, okay, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Yeah, so I got to get to that point where you asked me, how did you do that? And what's great about Phantom Power is after we started working together, one of my mentors, who I believe was with Phantom Power before, but I didn't realize, signed on officially, Michael Moss, and I've done like all his classes and training one on one, and he's been very encouraging over the years and showing me just his process and teaching me sort of the trailer music way. So it's great to be among friends and mentors and colleagues in the space, even though at times we might also be competition because it's like, I'm trying to get this trailer, but he's like trying to get the trailer. So it's a thin line in
Yeah,
this industry.
it's all a competition, but at the same
Yeah,
time, like we should try to help each other when we're not competing. And
yeah,
even then when we're competing, it's good to help each other. Like it's all, I don't know, in a way we have to support each other. I'm glad there's groups for that, like the
yeah,
trailer composer support group and whatnot. I'm glad there's things
yeah,
like that because like we all have questions and all that. And the crazy thing is it's funny. There are times there's like a custom that I have to get on board, but I'm also getting other composers on board. And I'm
yeah,
thinking, I would like to get this, but at the same time, I want these composers to also get this. So I'm
yeah.
giving them advice to beat me, to kick my ass.
So you're creating your own competition,
Uh-huh.
which where
And
you
it's
could,
hilarious
wow,
when it works
that's
out
crazy.
and they're like, "Oh, yep. Yep, well that's how I lost."
Yeah, yeah.
No, because like a win, because at the end of it, even though I like my own win, when
Mhm.
they win, I win. So I
Yeah,
win either way. So it's just like get these tracks all to the top of their game.
yeah, yeah. Um, in which like I said, like even I think we've gotten up to 7 or 8 revisions. And I know you mentioned earlier, like when we first started working, you're like, hey man, I know it's a lot of revisions. I'm like, man, when I look in the trailer music composer group and I see some composers mentioning they got up to revision 60 or 70, mentally,
Hmm.
that's where I'm like, okay, I have to be prepared to get up to that high. Luckily, I've never had to, but sometimes maybe the edits, that's what they want. Even if it's like, turn this up 1 dB or whatever the case is. Um, or changing sounds of these libraries. Like I'm continually getting new and better string libraries, and so when I have like earlier trailers that I might submit, and I might get revision, like, hey, can you change these sounds out to make them more realistic? I was like, yeah, because I think when I made that, I had like this library that doesn't really sound authentic, but now I have
Yeah.
better sounding. So always improving, figuring out mixes and things like that. Something is mentioned for the people joining. Dave, thank you for tuning in. Also, Dave Bush has joined the building. Um, Uh, if you were taking notes, Robbie mentioned the Trailer Music Composer Group. That is probably, in my opinion, one of the most supportive groups on Facebook, especially for trailer music composers. He also mentioned the Samplist, where we both do sample reviews of sample libraries. That's a YouTube channel called The Samplist, the Sampleist. And they're always having plugins and stuff for us to review. Some are great, and some maybe not so much. But uh,
I
but
haven't found one that I don't like yet.
yeah, I try to ask for the ones that I think I'm going to use. And I think I'm at the point where it's like I have way too many string libraries, but I keep getting percussion libraries. Like I can never have too many percussion libraries. Um, so
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I've ended up just doing libraries that other people aren't picking. So
mm,
for me, I usually will just use take like something like that's like just a brass band or something like that. I'm like, thing I've never worked with this or this blues thing. I'm like, oh, but this is so cool. Now I know how. Now I'm messing around with this. For me, it's like a
yeah,
cool challenge and trying something new and like trying to learn a skill with this stuff. Because like
yeah,
whenever I've worked on things like Lifetime movies or
mm,
a Christmas movie for life or for like Real One or something that I've done,
mhm,
I'm thinking, I wish I had that library.
yeah,
After using it, I'm like, I wish I had this. This would be great to have down the line. Because like you never know what you're going to work on. So it's just like I
mhm,
do kind of like how it's random library sometimes.
yeah, yeah,
And like it's just like there's gaps in what I have. There's always going to be some type of gap. And
yeah,
so like I do I'm like, I've never heard of this company or I've never heard of that company.
mhm.
So it's pretty exciting being a part of that.
Yeah, yeah, especially the new ones that come about, and then we can be a part of their journey, sharing their library with the world, and hopefully getting them some awareness. Uh, for you, how do you find the composers that you decide to add to the roster? As I mentioned, I didn't exactly make the cut to begin with, but luckily you worked with me to get to that level where it was acceptable for Phantom Power. But how do you find composers, and are you still looking for
Oh, do
more?
you mean like, wait, so you were saying you didn't think you made the cut because I asked for revisions?
Uh, well, actually, I think is when I almost uh ruined it by sending music that wasn't exclusively
Oh
available.
no, no. For me, it's like I do get sometimes people submitting something where, hold on, let me lower that was almost peaking. There are sometimes I get submissions and it's and it's all exclusive, and I'm thinking, okay, I like what
Mhm.
I'm hearing. How do I, okay, let's reach out and see if they have stuff that is available.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just
Okay.
like figuring there you go, that's better.
Yep.
Um, and then if once they send something, then we could work together on that and the other thing. Because like whether it's exclusive or not, if the stuff they send is good, then I want to work with them.
Okay.
And then when it comes to like having new composers come in, it's like I'm always just hoping to find someone that writes something that lights a bit of a spark
Yeah. Yeah.
or a creative spark or something like that. So something that just makes you think, okay, this person has a good feeling for it or potential for
Hmm.
it. I've worked,
Yeah.
I've given notes to some composers who are not technically on the roster, but there was potential and
Okay.
whatnot. And I told them to work on this, that, the other thing, and things like that. And so like there's always room. And when it comes
Hmm.
to accepting composers, we're always looking for more
Okay.
because there's always these different briefs we're working on. Like
Yeah.
we just never, there's always like a need for something. And I
Yeah.
think we're just releasing album after album. So I want, so for me, it's like if I can get composers that can maybe do some trailerized hip hop or strings or something that's more piano based or
Hmm.
something. Not everyone's going to do everything.
Yeah.
And that's why I went to the support group chat and asked for those string tracks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was something I'm thinking like, man, I gotta get some of these. This is tough.
I,
And then next thing you know, I got a bunch. That was
I
actually one
know.
of the better things I did because not only did I find some good composers through there, I also found composers for other
Projects.
genres.
Yeah.
in within trailers. I have to say that within trailers
Yeah.
because I get a lot of emails from composers that just send me things that aren't trailer
Hmm.
free, and that just drives me crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Like just regular songs. So, and I think that's the one thing about being part of these great communities is you never know when those opportunities came. For example, I saw the post and I submitted some stuff and we did the neoclassical and then you sent some other briefs. And I will say this, I didn't land, I don't land every brief. I might send in one or two ideas and Robbie might just be like, nah, that ain't it. Or say, man, I had one that was really good and I think the logic session got corrupt and I was just like,
Oh yeah,
and I tried to remake it, and it's hard to capture the same vibe. And I'm just like, technology woes, first world problems, but such
first
is life. Um, such
that
is
was a
life.
good track. I'm like,
And I was like, and I tried to like, it wasn't coming, and I tried to like get the session repaired, but yeah,
no, things like this happen.
yeah, and I think having people like you at these companies who understand, life happens, things happen. Sometimes, we're working on a project and the deadline has to shift on our plate, but you got to keep going with your project. But maybe that song could work on another project. So, working with people who are flexible, who understand, schedules and people live lives outside of trailers. Some of us do. um, so yeah, if anyone in the chat has questions. Oh, okay. So Greg asks, his favorite is trailerized hip hop. He says, "Are you in need of trailerized hip hop with vocals? Are you ever looking for vocals for any tracks, other even if
Not
it's
at the moment. We have a few already.
okay,
I'm supposed to finish an album soon that has trailerized hip hop with vocals.
okay."
The only person slowing it down is me, unfortunately, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Well, if that is something that we could talk about, because I know I've worked with Gregory on trailerized hip hop with vocals, so
Yeah.
definitely let us know once you're ready to get back into that sort of lane. Is there a recently, has there been a trend that you've been seeing as far as trailers that have been landing? The style, the genre.
For me, I think, well, horror is always a thing.
Yeah,
Horror is a big thing. It's year round. Of
yeah.
course, definitely around Halloween, you'll
Halloween.
see more horror-y stuff, movies coming out. But all year you'll see a horror trailer for something. So
Hmm.
that's always going to be out there. However, we're trying to we're trying to, I guess, set a trend ourselves with you probably saw our vocal violence album.
Yes. Yeah.
We would there
This.
that would be something cool for us.
Okay.
We're trying to get going, but um minimalism, that is
Hmm.
something that I've noticed is liked. Orchestral minimalism,
Yeah.
hybrid trailer minimalism, I should say. Like that seems to be a thing. It's it sounds
That's interesting.
easy, but you'd be surprised how hard it is to get it right because when there's so little, when it's not as complex writing,
Hmm.
I've noticed that all of the flaws come out in a
Hmm.
production. Like it'll all come out, whether the sustains are stagnant or like static and not moving,
Yeah.
or some of the attacks might be off, or it's just not much of what's that word? Not much of that dramatic push.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain it because, like,
Uh,
usually if I hear a track, I'd be like, okay, this is what it needs and all that, just to maybe
mhm.
get that going and things like that. And like, but if you land it, then it just sounds really good. It sounds awesome. It hits all the right notes.
Yeah.
Um, our last minimalism album, I think, has had traction with
Oh wow.
like different campaigns, and it's a great trend I've
Hmm.
noticed for us. I don't know how if it has legs, but that, and then I guess. I've always noticed ticking clocks.
Oh man, I love Keep Forest, and we'll have to talk offline about them. But Watchkeeper, I toss that on everything because I can always take clocks out. But if you're not familiar with Watchkeeper, it's probably the most expensive clock plugin you'll ever get, but it's the last one you'll ever need. Um,
I have been wanting to try that out.
yeah, it's insane. There are some more cost-effective ones. ADO has a great one. Ticking sounds. I mean, you could really just grab a cup and hit it and manipulate it and things like that. So yeah, ticking sounds and horror. It's good to know about the horror and minimalism. When you were talking about minimalism, it reminded me also of a genre that I enjoy creating. I don't have enough in my catalog, but slow burn, like really just like two chord stuff that plays out for 90 seconds. But it just keeps building. I love
Yeah.
that. I love when I see trailers that's just like, how did they do this with just two chords throughout this whole piece? So yeah, it's
It's something I noticed actually, something similar to that. The Hans Zimmer concerts.
yes, yeah.
We went to the one here, the first of the tour.
Oh, nice.
And as I'm sitting there, like my mentor mentioned this to me. My mentor, Penka Kuneva.
Okay.
She's the orchestrator for various projects like done by Blizzard,
Oh, wow.
stuff by Nunzer and others. She's a really good orchestrator, big projects under her belt, amazing teacher. Um, she mentioned that Hans Zimmer and some other bigger names like writing passacaglias, as I think that's what it's called, which is when the same chords are being repeated over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, but things keep building on top of it, which is kind of what those slow burns are.
Yeah.
Like now I have to make sure I'm doing that right because I don't want to look like I'm
No, no, no. Say
crazy.
it because it's sort of almost like when if you ever study like the shepherd tones where
Yeah.
the notes just they keep sounding like they keep going up and it's like a loop cycle back around. But yeah, it's
Yeah. Well, with this one, it's just like this slow build and like Hans Zimmer.
that's great. Yeah.
It's the same set of chords over and over and over. But like it's not bad.
Hmm.
It's amazing the way the way he uses it and keeps building on this theme and the chord progression. And I'm thinking, huh,
Yep.
okay. That's something that will never go away, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely in style. Jay Ward has a question. I'm curious to hear, Robbie, some of your memorable projects that you've worked on.
I'll just stick trick. I'll stay with trailers, I guess, since this is what we're here for. Memorable. Hmm. I guess the first campaign where I was doing supervisor duties was The Exorcist Believer. And for that one, it was kind of ridiculous for me because like I was moving at the time. We were staying at a friend's place in Georgia.
Okay.
We were looking at a house. Well, I should say in Peachtree, Georgia. We were
Okay.
looking at a house over in McDonald, which I told you about,
Hmm.
and we left. We left the place in Peachtree, went to her parents' place in Ohio since we had to get everything out and get things sorted, and we had
Yep.
to get our cats that were staying in Ohio at the time because like we were just going back and forth.
Hmm.
And then the project comes in, and I'm sending this out to composers and everything, and I'm just thinking, oh my God, I hope I have enough time and brain power to focus on all these
Yeah.
things.
Yep.
And it's going okay. But then we're driving back to Georgia to close on the house. And
Hmm.
we're in Tennessee, in the near the Smoky Mountains and everything on the
Yeah.
side, I-75 going south. And I get a message asking if an emergency happens on on the custom I did,
Mm.
if I can pull over, export the
Oh, wow.
stems, and send them out. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, I guess, because
Yep.
back then I was using an iMac Pro, which is huge.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I have all of these hard drives and everything. I'm thinking, oh boy, I can only imagine going to a Starbucks right now
Hmm.
in the middle of Tennessee, pulling out an iMac and all these
Yeah,
drives
it's start work. Yeah, that would.
just to bounce out some stuff. And I'm thinking, oh, and I was glad that the other composers that I had on this were on top of it and doing a great
Yeah.
job too, and giving them direction. So that was pretty memorable. And I guess the other part of this was doing sound design for the first trailer.
Mm.
I did some custom sound design, I think 8 to 10 sound effects.
Oh, wow.
And then I did it in a couple days. And even though I have a lot of sound design credits, I'm not a sound designer.
Hmm.
Official, I'm not like I wouldn't say I'm like the best,
Yeah.
but I'm learning, but yet I still have all these things going. But doing this project was insane. All these different sounds I had to do and try different approaches to everything. So when I would see this trailer, I'm thinking, oh my God, that's that.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I was asked by the client last minute for one more sound effect with a female vocal.
Mm.
So I yelled for my wife to come upstairs because we both work from home,
Okay.
luckily. So I'm like, Allison, can you come? I need you upstairs right now, right now. Don't laugh. Don't ask questions. I need you to sing this note and
Mhm.
hold it out. And like what, 30 minutes later, send that off. Next thing you know, it's in the trailer as
Wow.
like when near the at the end of the first trailer where the girls are like this has this weird creepy vocal sound going. That's her.
That's your wife. That's awesome.
It
Wow.
was funny telling my real estate agent about that too. He was laughing his butt off.
And I think it's things like that, like involving family. Like I have a violin. I'm terrible at the violin, but like getting like my wife or kids to play the violin, I'm like, you don't have to sound great because a lot of times, especially in the horror music, as you mentioned earlier, the worse it sounds, the better
Yeah.
the better it is. That's what I like about horror music. So it's like just play something and let me hit record and let's see what happens, and then I can build around that. For you, let's see. Dave says, thanks for the call. As a producer of artists but not doing trailers, what would you suggest to get more acquainted with the trailer space? Any educational resources, associations, social groups, lead flow suggestions, anything that comes to mind for someone that's more in the artist space, but if they wanted to learn more about the trailer space?
Watch a lot of trailers just to
Yes.
hear what different approaches there are because there's not like no composer is going to be great at everything. I think each composer is going to have
Yeah.
like their areas, and there are areas that they're not as great at. I know what I'm not good at, and
Mhm.
that's okay. And like it's great to know that because then you could work on it maybe or and maybe improve, or you just know not to mess around with it, and that's fine. So that's probably the first thing. See what you like in the trailer world.
Mhm.
And then from there you could probably find different sources, like whether it's Michael Moss's course or other thing, or Evident, things like that. There might be courses from these different areas that might help and focus on that genre.
Yep.
Maybe
Yep.
you just like sound design cues. Like I don't know about Michael's course, and I'm sure if he sees this, he's going to give me a hard time. But I know Evan has some talks about some things about the sound effects, sound design stuff that I looked at years ago.
Yeah. Uh,
Um, Other than that, like trial and error, mess up a lot, like I do.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I
And
always mess up a lot. I always fail.
I put a link for I've taken Michael Moss's course, which for me was probably one of the most um, I would say like a week after taking the course, I got it's a placement that I got through Greg here. It was a promo for Survivor. So
Nice.
it was, just learn from what I learned that course, and you can do that course within like a weekend, like 4 hours. And I believe that might even currently be on sale. So, but Evnet, I've done one of their courses. I forgot what it's called. I think it was called Trailer Music Mastery. Uh, and then, as mentioned by Robbie here, um, I do work full time at National Geographic, which is a whole nother story. But my commute to work
Nice.
is usually my commute there is like an hour and a half. Uh, Usually 3 days a week, 2 to 3 days a week. So when I go to work, before I get into drive, go to YouTube and I type in 3 words: trailers this week, and my commute to work is full of me listening, finding these playlists. And I usually look for playlists that have like 30 minutes, 45 minutes of just trailers that were released this week. And there are a couple channels that release those playlists, 2 or 3 times a week. So I can usually at least twice a week find a playlist of, let's just say, 45 minutes an hour of the new trailers released this week. Some might overlap. I might get some repeats, but it is helping to train the ear to hear, the trailers, the sounds that are being used. So that is sort of one way to keep your ear trained to those sounds, taking the courses. And then who asked the question? Was it Dave? Joining the trailer music composer group. Just join in, look at some of the chats there. You can even ask questions there. Like, hey, you can ask your question there. And a lot of the people there are legends in this space
Yeah.
who, how are they, finding the time to answer this when they should be working on those
Yeah, like Mark
customs for those
Petrie's in there, for
billion-dollar
goodness
films.
sake, talking and answering
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
I've talked to him personally and asked him questions. Like, these people can be approachable.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
What's incredible is they don't, a lot of them, some of them do, but a lot of them don't charge for the information. You ask them, a question, or you send them music to listen to give some feedback. Now I wouldn't abuse that, like send them
Yeah.
one and then get and then maybe follow up a few months later. But a lot of them are willing to share their knowledge, and it's not, like I said, it's competition because you might be going after the same trailer, but it's also just learning from these guys who are willing to share those resources. Let's see. I'm trying to catch these comments also. Greg mentioned that they dropped one of those minimalist projects that you were talking about earlier. Jay Ward says he had a similar experience where he had less than 48 hours to do a custom, and he had his daughter screaming into the mic, and his lady, all sorts of crazy sound design needed. And it was all used for the Will Packer Universal trailer for Oracle on Halloween last year. So yeah, getting the
Nice.
family involved. That's and one, you don't have to pay them. So there's that side of things.
My
Like,
wife has me pay her with food, and I'm thinking, you sure
there you
about
go.
that?
There you go. If anyone else has any questions, drop them there in the comments. But yeah, the training thing. For me, trailers has been a 2 year sort of journey studying trailers. Some of my first, when I go back and listen to some of the first trailer albums that I thought were good that I released, I'm like, yeah, these are terrible. I didn't have the sounds I have now. I didn't have, the knowledge, the experience, the mixing sort of techniques. Um,
I mean, I
so
felt the same way. You never know. Like, I'm in year, what, 9 in my whole
wow,
career trying to
yeah,
learn how to write music in general. So I know, I get it.
yeah, yeah.
I get it.
What is one thing that when you do find new composers that you always often see as issue or problems or challenges that you try to help them overcome when they send you music?
Man, that's a tough one. Let me think. Let me think. So these would be for composers that I give revisions to, or composers that I think would need to work on greater facets before really trying to get the revisions.
Yeah, before the revisions, like what
Okay.
would be the challenges? Like, yeah, the greater.
It's overall the production side
Mm,
I've noticed. And like for me, it's not like I've mastered this for a decade. No, like I said, only been in this industry 9 years.
yeah,
So I'm technically, I guess, a newbie compared to most other people, even my own peers, which is bizarre. But
yeah,
like the production side is like the biggest issue. And when I say that, like it can mean everything, right?
mhm,
But things like the use of reverb could
mm,
be like so big. I used to abuse my reverbs back in the day, even my earlier days at Phantom Power. I'm just like, what the
yeah,
heck was I doing, man?
yeah,
And but the thing is, like, it's these are things you learn with from practice and whatnot. And the video I did for the samplist actually, for classic reverbs,
hmm
that
yeah,
one helped me learn a little more in terms of how to help other composers, give them some advice because like I use that now. That's my main thing now.
mm,
And I know how to get a really good sound out of that. And now sometimes I tell a composer if they're looking for something, try that, try classic reverbs or try this, try that, things like that. Another big issue um is strings. And strings. Like it's hard to find a library that just does everything right,
yeah,
and you're not gonna find that.
yeah,
And but if you do, great, congratulations. But like I use the libraries I use now work very well so far, so we'll see. And that's Hyperion strings from Sound Iron, which I did a sample
Mm,
video for. That has a lot of good stuff and a lot of cool possibilities that I've never had with other libraries.
yeah.
And then modern scoring strings.
Is that musical sampling? Oh, who's modern
That's
scoring?
that's Audio Bro.
Okay.
And if you need if you want a new string library, look at those two because those
Mhm.
two sound amazing. And but anyways, when it comes to the strings, like a big problem I've noticed is they don't do this one Hollywood trick,
Mhm.
and that
Yeah.
could help a lot. And that would be hairpins,
Mm.
which is basically crescendos and decrescendos.
Mhm.
You need some dynamic movement. There's usually just static strings not moving that are held. When I hear that, I'm just thinking, oh no.
Yeah.
For me, it's just like, goodness, come on, give me some flow. Or you give me some of that groove, something there. Things like
Mm.
that. Or having all the strings clumped up in the middle and things like that. Those can
Mm.
be some big things that can stop you from sounding. That's a big difference. It could be a big difference from sounding okay to sounding great. I listen to some of my old chat, I'm thinking, man, I wish I, use that mod wheel and the expression a bit more there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Uh,
trying different types of layering in terms of like sustains and whatnot.
mhm.
And then like things with the brass. I'm an orchestral guy. So I'm
Okay.
sorry if I'm talking your ear off. Let me know
No,
if you
no,
want me to
no.
stop talking.
No, no, because I was gonna ask you to share some of the plugins you use for these different orchestral
Um,
sections.
the brass is modern scoring brass.
Okay.
Straight up, not sure oh, I will sometimes use Cinebrass Pro that I use through Museo.
Okay.
When that thing went on sale for $500, I bought that right away for Museo to have it for
Yeah.
life. Yep, I will take that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I use that sometimes. I know some composers that we have on the roster with big placements use that Cinebrass Pro. That because that for trailers that delivers good sound. Um,
Yeah.
but like something that drives me nuts. I'm a French horn player.
Okay.
And something that horns, trombones, sometimes tuba, the things that we really struggle with is playing on time.
Mhm.
And a lot of times a lot of times I'll get tracks where the brass can will come in late right after the beat, and that's because they
Yeah.
have the MIDI at
Mhm.
or right near the start of the bar or the
Yeah.
play or the note where they're supposed to play. And I'm thinking, no, you got to anticipate that. Push that to the
Mhm.
left. What are you doing? Come on, come on.
Yep.
Like, but like I have to remember this isn't common knowledge unless you play a brass instrument or you're in an orchestra hearing a conductor yell at the horns or the trombones to play ahead of the beat.
Yeah.
Like we're notorious for not because we suck, but because of just how the instruments are made.
Mhm.
Horns face backwards, trombones have a lot of weird tubing to go through. It's just how it
Yeah.
is. And um, what else is there?
Yeah. There's well, you have so you did brass, you did strings. I need to go back to Hyperion strings. So I do have that. I do use Hyperion brass a lot from Sound Iron, and I use
The
uh
ensemble library for Hyperion is crazy.
yeah.
Hyperion
I
Strings Ensemble, there's a lot of stuff. It's
Yep.
insane.
Yeah, yeah. Sound Iron, I still think is really underrated. I use a lot of the Metropolis Arc One stuff from Orchestral Tools. Uh, let's talk percussion. What are your sort of go-to percussion libraries?
A lot of Damage 2 and Damage 1
Hmm.
together.
Same.
Um, and I usually just stick to the same patch, though I've noticed some
Does it rhyme
like
with Farmageddon?
yes. However, I'm changing some things around and it works pretty well. I'm just messing around though.
Yeah.
And mixing that with what is it? Devastator Evolution Devastator Warzone. I think that's how it's said.
Mm-hmm.
Don't kill me, keep forest. um, so I like to mix those three,
Yeah.
and then it works very well. Though, like
Mhm.
I said, I'm getting away from Armageddon
Okay.
from from damage to little by little and trying something
Yeah.
else into within damage to. I just forget the name of it. But Armageddon from damage one,
Yeah.
I can't get away from it.
It's clean.
There's this
I mean,
plastic sounding
yeah.
tom that I just think
Mhm.
sounds perfect, layered with any deep percussion. I'm like, I need that right now. It
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
stays there. And I just don't know. I just can't do anything else.
Yeah, yeah. And for those watching, I believe Damage One, I don't know if it still is, but it used to be part of one of those Native Instrument complete packages. So if you have complete, check your Native Instruments or Native Access, you might already have Damage One. I know composers in the trailer space who only use they don't have Damage Two. They only use Damage maybe with some other libraries, but they don't have Damage Two. So Damage One does have a lot in there to get you through, and they're getting placements. Devastator Warzone, there's a free version of that from Keep Forest that you can check out. I also use Ferrum, which there's a free version of that you can get, like a pared down version, or you can, just test it out. And then I use the Breakout Pro of Devastator, which is insane. Um,
I've been wanting to try that.
yeah, yeah, that one is insane. And then I got a bunch of percussion lab, well, not a bunch. I got two this year. Decadence from AVA Music Group or Ava. I don't know how you say it. AVA Music Group. And then Tommy Profit percussion from Tommy Profit and Cinematic Tools. I got that about a month ago. So still
Oh
diving in on
yeah.
that.
I have to try
Uh,
that stuff out. Ava Eminence is what I use for the
oh yeah,
booms.
yeah, that one is
Sometimes they're hits, but they're booms. The booms for me are just they just hit the sweet spot.
yeah, yeah. They do a lot of great sound design. Um, uh, from Ava, I use their Eminence and Instinct. Usually very rarely do I go to the plugins. I'm using the WAV files like a lot, just
Oh
drag
yeah.
and drop or just line them up on the grid. Just find the audio files. So it's much easier to manipulate uh, for me, the drag and drop of those sounds. I do see some questions here coming through the chat. We'll continue with some more plugins after that. I see Greg asked, Rob B, are you limited to working with new libraries? Oh, I like that music. Would like to give you access to their trailers. And I do have some music with them. He says I'm one of their top composers. Thank you, Greg. So do you also work with libraries
With like other library, oh, other music libraries. When I think
like music
we're talking
libraries?
about like we're talking about music libraries now. I'm thinking like VSTs. Sorry.
No, no,
Oh
yeah,
no,
music.
I am strictly Phantom. We just stick
Um,
Phantom.
does Phantom collaborate with libraries to get sort of music for briefs that you're looking for?
Not at the moment.
Okay, not at the moment. That's a positive answer. Something that you might consider down the road.
I have no idea. Don't look at
Okay.
me.
He's like, okay, cool, cool. Jay says, love the knowledge. Keith says, is there a max amount of sound libraries you will add to one track or just as much as your laptop can handle? Oh, that's a good question. Um, so if you're making a song, is there like a limit or an average number of tracks that you have? Um,
Um, I mean, sometimes the computer will be mad at me, but I just got this new computer though, so I have to really figure out how far is too far.
yeah.
But I overwrite a lot and I'm learning
Mhm.
not to now. And
Yeah.
I'm remembering what one of my old professors taught me back in Pulse. His name is Christo Pavlov. He's a great orchestrator in Bulgaria. He said, say, only write for what you need. And that's what I'm trying to stick with.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
When it comes to sound design, at least, though, sometimes you need a good chunk.
hmm Yeah. Do you have sessions that hit like that? Like when I started studying trailer music and I would look at some of these YouTube videos and I would see trailer templates and they're like 500 tracks, 1,000 tracks. I'm like, I don't mentally even want to look at that many. Like I
I
get it,
don't.
you gotta, but I'm just like, um,
My template that I use for everything, even trailers, is like, I don't know, 100, 150.
okay, yeah,
Like
that
one
that's
of there, I actually
yeah.
there was a string track I did that was used in a commercial for a Prodigal Son years ago that I
Mm.
think I didn't even use a template. I think I only used five, six
Wow.
tracks.
Yeah.
And that was one of the better tracks in the library, so it was kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah. So you don't need like I follow a composer on YouTube. His name is Richard Prin, and a lot of his tracks are under 50. And he's landing these trailer placements. but they're only under 50, tracks in there.
You
So you
don't
don't need
need
hundreds.
as
Yeah.
much, no. It's
Yeah.
good to have the options, I guess, in the template. You never know. There could be a cool layer or cool sound, but most of the time you're not going to use them, I hope.
Yeah.
If you're using like 100, then you might need to use the mute button and see if that helps.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's what because when I started building templates, I had a template that had like it was getting to like 200. And what I found is when I started opening up to create trailer music, I would delete like half of the track, more than half of the tracks in there. I'm like, I didn't use all this stuff. And it took me more time to delete the tracks than it did to create the track.
Yeah.
But uh, so Keith, yeah, I think it's just as much as you need to do it, and of course, as much as your laptop can handle. I do remember before I got a more robust laptop that I have now, that I had to do the sort of I had to make the music. So I had an 8 GB RAM laptop that couldn't handle anything. And what I had to do was I had a string session. And once I created what I thought was good enough strings for the trailer, I would have to bounce the stereo mix of that strings and then open up another session to be the brass or the percussion or whatever. And then bounce that out with the brass and the strings and then open another session for the percussion. So by the time the track was done, uh, it was like, let's say a 2-minute trailer track was made up of like 6 or 7 different logic sessions because the computer I had at the time
Dang.
couldn't handle, but tried to figure it out. I was like, and then I told my wife, she's like, what do you need? And I was like, I need like the top of the line. At the time it was the M1 Mac just came out. I was like, I need the M1 Mac maxed out, and wasn't cheap, but sped up the workflow like exponentially.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I used to have that issue with a 16 gigabyte RAM laptop years ago. Yeah.
it's crazy.
It would just stop. It just couldn't handle it. It was like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah, and you'd be like locked in, you're like in the flow state, and you're just like, ah. Jay Ward says, how do you like the Tommy Prophet percussion? Do you have that one, Robbie?
I don't. I have to look this up.
Okay. Jay, I enjoyed it. I think it's actually on sale right now. I like using it because, well, I'm a fan of Tommy Prophet in general, so it's hard for me to separate. In this case, it's hard for me to separate the artist from the product. But I like the artist, and I also like cinematic tools, so it's sort of like a double whammy. And uh, I like percussion instruments. So when that came out, I wanted, I had to get my hands on it. When the Decadence came out from AVA Music Group, I had to get that one. I didn't get Crow Hill released one called Conundrum, I think. I didn't get that one. But of course, I guess if they do 8 years, I guess we are, what's this, 2024, maybe 5-ish years away from Damage 3. So when that comes out, I'll definitely get my hands on that one. They released, at least the first two, they were 8 years apart, I believe. But yeah, Heaviosity. David mentioned he loved AVA Eminence and Heaviosity Gravity. Heaviosity is another great company
Aviosity is
for,
amazing.
yeah, they have
I
some
need to
free
get their
plugins
new
also.
Gravity. I need to get Gravity too.
I need to get 1 and 2. I have Oblivion, but I need to get Gravity. I don't have either of the Gravities. Um, so let's continue on the percussion live, or let's continue the library chat. What about we did percussion, we did brass, we did strings. What about synths?
Hmm. For stints, what do I use? Goodness. There's like Omnisphere takes up a good chunk of
Yeah.
it. But the thing is like what expansions, what do I use for
Mhm.
that? Um, there's this company called Rocky Mountain Sounds
Okay.
that is really cool because they have all this wide range of libraries, and I need to go back to doing demos for them. I just haven't had the time.
Mhm.
And I love the guy over there. And
Yeah.
if you have Omnisphere, you want to expand it, check that out, please. But they have one called Majestica, which is a
Mm,
really cool sounding expansion. I think there's 2 volumes actually.
okay.
And there's one where I talked to him before about like trailers and whatnot. And he made a really cool expansion called Complexity.
Ooh, okay.
And I he like Jason, I over there, he took Complexity and made some really nice sounds. Not all of it is going to work for trailers, but there's some things that work very well for trailers specifically.
Okay.
The rest of it is great for cinematic stuff. If you
Mhm.
don't think it works for trailers, like or games, like the game I did recently that came out, Tactical Breach Wizards, I use a ton of Complexity
Oh wow.
in it, and like I owe him a lot because he you got me that. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
his sounds helped me a lot in that game.
it's
Um,
awesome.
what else do I use? There was so this is kind of funny. Uh,
Mm,
so Reactor, they have
okay,
the community where you can
the free.
download
Yep.
things that were made by the community. There is a Juno, I think, a Juno
Mm,
106 or
okay.
something like that. I can't remember. I'd have to open a plugin and make to open a project, but I have that open just for some sound, just for different types of cool sounds, and it's really sweet.
Yeah.
Um, and if I want a hard analog, I have my Argon 8
Oh, wow. Okay.
from Modal Electronics that I use in Tactical Breach Wizards as well. And then I have this Prophet Rev 2, which I use only a little bit because I need time to really go through it and learn it. I'm like staring
Yep.
at it right now, thinking I have to get dive into there at some point.
Yep.
Um, like for since like that's like you don't need too much, but it's good to have some
Hmm.
things. Diva, I have Diva. Diva's great.
Yep.
The Unfinished, that like just like Rocky Mountain Sound, like the Unfinished is really good to go to for not only Omnisphere, but for Diva. I bought one of their
Mm.
Diva expansions. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I have to buy more.
Yeah, I've
uh,
heard great things about the unfinished.
oh,
Um,
it's
and
it's incredible.
I should have adopted Omnisphere earlier. I don't have Omnisphere or Serum or any of like the top. I do have the Native Instruments package, so I have Reactor. But um, I keep hearing people like they once you get Omnisphere, you don't need anything else. I probably wouldn't have half the plugins that I have if I got Omnisphere like years ago.
People consider some people, I should say, some people consider Omnisphere sometimes to be outdated or something. I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Omnisphere is still has everything almost that you need.
Yeah,
And with all these different companies making their own sounds from with Omnisphere, either importing new ones or like the Unfinished does, using what is in Omnisphere to make some really cool things.
yeah,
Like you can't go wrong with Omnisphere.
yeah, yeah. And it's almost the same as Serum, Vital, all these other
Yeah.
synth plugins. And I mean, speaking of outdated, I still use. I haven't used it for a couple of years, but it just got sort of fully compatible with my Mac system. The Air expand 2 or hybrid or vacuum, like I still use them and they're like 10, 15 years old.
I mean, if it
But
works,
like
it works.
yeah, they sound good. Of course, you can layer them with newer sounds. I use Logic stock sounds. Um, so yeah, like I said, if it works, it works. I've never been asked by anyone, maybe composers, other composers, but not by, I don't think the director of a film is going to ask you what string library did you use, and they might if they're a composer for that trailer. Let's go to I guess this will be the last category, pianos. Do you have some go-to? There's hundreds out there.
Oh
I've
my God, what do I
demoed
do
I've demoed
now? I don't
probably
know. There's too many.
I've demoed over 600 pianos.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
There's Noir that I started using. That's pretty
Yeah.
good. Um, oh my God, Una Corda, I think that's the name. I think I was
Yep.
using that. I think that was also used in Squid Game. I can't remember. One of the Native Instruments libraries was used in Squid Game. I think it was that one or Noir. I can't remember which.
Nice.
Um, and of course the Giant.
Mhm.
You can't go wrong with the Giant. Come on. Um, the one that I've used more for trailers, the Maverick.
Mm.
Don't know why. I just like that one. And I just made sounds with the Maverick.
Yeah.
And that's
Okay.
also native instruments, like old native instruments.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
There's a lot.
there's so many. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still trying to find a piano for me that works well, but I realized that it's all about the production of it. Because
Hmm.
like I can probably like if you know how to make a piano sound warm,
Yep.
then just how based out just from the regular sound, then do you really need all the other pianos? Maybe. I don't know. There's some cool ones that have a lot of flexibility in terms of like unique sounds you can make and a lot of cool presets.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's something I think is what I really like to see in libraries, especially when doing stuff for the samplist.
Mhm.
It's like if this one piano library has all these variables and interesting presets that show what it can do,
Yeah.
then that makes it to me something that's like really worth using. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah. But yeah, because once you like, I think once you get to like sort of where we are, where we do have hundreds of plugins, and it's like, oh no, another piano, another string library. But then if it's like, if it does something, I started seeing a trend with string libraries where they've been doing some type of, some of them call it like adaptive uh, articulations or velocities, things like Swam has been doing audio modeling. Swam's been doing it for years, where basically based on how you play, if you play quick, it's a staccato note, but if you hold it out longer, it's a long note. It's based on the velocity, based on how you're playing the keys, as opposed to you doing key switches or programming in different articulations. It's based on how you play. I just did a review of Insanity Samples Violin One for the samplist, where they have some of that technology built in where it's adaptive to how you play. And I think there was another one called Adaptive Strings by, is it Kirk Hunter, one of those string libraries that adapts based on how you play. So I really like that trend because I am a keyboard player, so it just makes it more natural for me to get those string sounds. Um, and with piano, yeah, if you get the complete package, that's basically all the pianos you need.
Yeah.
I use the Gentleman all the time. I used to use that, and now I actually use Alicia's keys a lot.
Oh yeah.
Uh, which I really just, I think because I'm just a fan of her in general.
Isn't that updated now?
So it is updated, and they have electric keys out now.
Oh,
Alicia's
man, I'm
electric
on their
keys.
page right now because you were saying we were talking about things. Oh yeah, there it is. Electric keys. Look at that.
Yeah,
Oh my God, there's so many things.
yeah, and they keep improving. And then a non-native instruments thing I use is Multimedia Piano Verse, which does do more of the character piano. So you can basically take pianos, and they have all these environments you can put the piano in, like a forest, or you can put it underwater, and it creates this um like different other worldly sound, or you can put it
Okay,
like in
that's
a
cool.
yeah, it's called Piano Verse from Multimedia. So it's a
Piano verse.
unique take on piano sounds.
I'll have to check
Uh,
that out.
but yeah, I think man, we've been here over an hour. We have one person. Keith, do you have any questions you want to drop in the comments for Robbie before we let him go? Um, if not, man, I mean, you've shared a lot of gems here. I definitely appreciate your time.
I hope I was helpful.
You were. I do have one more question that might help. Well, these questions definitely help me. Um, so can you explain the process from Keith says no more questions. And we'll end with this sort of the process of how how a track gets from a composer to the to a trailer placement, sort of like the life of let's say the track is made, it's submitted, it's accepted to your library. You get a brief from a company. How does that whole process work? Sometimes is it 1 week? Is it 6 months? Is it
Oh
sometimes
goodness.
never
It's
ending?
variable.
Yeah,
It's variable, honestly. Like let's say we get a track that gets approved or goes through all these revisions and whatnot. That could take a while. Like
yeah,
you told me you've seen stuff that top people talking about 60 revisions.
yeah.
I don't think I've gone that far, thank God. Think don't think I've gone even to 10 yet. We'll see.
Good.
Um, but yeah, that could take a while. That could take
Yeah,
weeks. It could take months. Not only based on the composer's speed, but also if, let's say, I'm overwhelmed. Sometimes I can't get on things. If I'm busy with albums or projects that are outside of like getting the albums that I within Phantom, I'll get stuck.
yeah.
And sometimes it takes longer and whatnot. So then there's the process of getting the albums ready, which could take some time. But then after release, that's where the most variables come in.
Hmm.
Aside from the revision process. Sometimes a track maybe rarely does a track get used right away
Yeah.
because there's so many. There's
Hmm.
so many tracks. Maybe if maybe maybe a editor or music supervisor from a trailer house finds a track
Yeah.
that just came out from an email because we sent email blasts and everything. Maybe they open it and they're like, "Can we use this one right now?"
Hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes that can happen. That has happened. I've seen it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it could take years.
Mhm.
You were talking about how you would listen to tracks that you've written in the past and say, I don't know, like that it wasn't great. Like I have
Mhm.
those too.
Yeah.
Somehow in and I've had tracks in our library that wrote years ago that weren't that great, at least when I hear it now. Like I could write
Mhm.
like you've seen my emails. They can be sometimes
Mhm.
picky, right? Like
I mean, I don't,
I could
yeah.
only imagine the email I would write myself,
Mm. Yeah.
and that'd be
Yeah.
hilarious. The email I would probably write myself. I might actually do it one day and see what happens.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it could take that one. I didn't think would ever be used, but then like 4 years later, it's
Mm.
being used for half of a trailer in France, and it paid pretty good.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh, that's
Okay.
great. I'll take it. Like
Yeah.
it always varies. It's a tough it's a tough game, I guess I'll say. Because like in
Yeah.
sync, you can like with just regular sync libraries, you can like it's more about the back end and whatnot.
Mhm.
And but in my world, it's all front end. Everyone wants
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
front
Yeah.
end. They want the money
Yeah.
to come right
Yeah.
now, and because of that, it's more high risk, I think. Or like you want it sooner, but even here, it's like it takes a while sometimes.
Mhm.
Sometimes it'll take months, years, maybe never.
Yeah.
I would hope not. Like, well, I shouldn't say never because I've noticed everything eventually finds a home,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is
I think
good.
so.
And
And I like
so it could
hearing
just
those
take
stories.
longer than what one can hope. And I'm just being honest.
Mhm.
I'm not about sugarcoating things. Like when I was at the
Yep.
PMC, I was asking, I'm honest. Like you never know, it
Mhm.
just depends. Depends on the timing, what's needed at the time, and sometimes luck.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
hope that
a
was
lot of
helpful.
times luck. Yeah, yeah, I think no, I think so, and it helps me because when I hear stories of, some of these people who I follow and get inspired by, like Chris Davey, created a track 3 years ago that landed on two trailers or three trailers within like 2 months of each other, 3 years later from when he made it. It's like stuff like that. Knowing that it's possible just gives me enough inspiration to keep going. So like you said, there might be stuff I did. I did a track 2 years ago. It was a trailerization of a theme song for a Meta Quest game.
Nice.
That one of the artists who did the soundtrack reached out to me to trailerize the theme song, just on a like, hey, just trailerize it. It could be fun, and we did that and thought nothing of it. And then 2 years later, literally like a couple months ago, he reached out. It's like, hey, they're releasing version 2 of this game, um, and they're considering using that as the trailer for version 2. And I was like, yo, like I listened to it again. I was like, I got some new sounds, some better mixes. Let me go in and improve it. So I tried to do like an updated version of it, and he was like, they like what you did. They're gonna use what you did 2 years ago. Like, don't. I'm not sending this other thing in. So I was like, sometimes we could mess things up for ourselves, thinking we could be better. But like, if they like what they like what they like. If they'll use it. So
Exactly. Like
yeah, um,
sometimes you just gotta play the long game.
yeah, yeah. So hearing those stories is definitely encouraging. We will let you get out of here. Thank you, Robbie. I definitely, personally, of course, appreciate the opportunity to work with you and Phantom Power.
Yeah. I'm happy having
And
you on.
yeah, it's been definitely a learning experience and been helping me improve my trailer music production and mixing and everything. So I appreciate that. And thank you for this chat. I will get this out this week and send you like the recording and everything. So definitely appreciate your time. And I will see everyone else on the next episode. Be sure to check out the links in the description of this podcast. And I'll include a link to Phantom Power also, where you can check out some of the trailers and things that they have worked on. And have a great week, everyone. All right. All right. Peace.